Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Here's Alday.
What is going on with I Was Wrong? Welcome back, Islanders. Today is a bit of a special episode where we talk about how wrong I was about focused Datacrons. We talked about them last week in the last episode. I thought in concept they were a pretty cool idea and I was looking forward to them. Oh, but I could not have been more wrong if I tried. Today we're going to unpack that and explain why I'm wrong. Anyway, here we go. So, last week when we talked, we knew who the characters were and the characters looked good, the concept looked good, but we started to see more details on it. And specifically what we saw was the cost of these things. We alluded to it last week and said the entire concept was going to live or die on how expensive these were. You'd have 15 levels. If you want to watch the previous video, check it out down below. It will explain all about my initial thoughts on focused Datacrons. This one is my more detailed thoughts. So let's get to it. So to upgrade a focused Datacron, you take it up to 15 levels. 15 levels will cost you just over 28 million currency. So that is almost 4 times the currency of a standard Datacron. You also have a massive hike, probably 5 times the Mark III. Less than the Mark II, so it's not very intensive there, but yeah, you've got a huge also push of about 4 times in the Mark Is you need. But let's focus on the currency, because I think that's the kind of thing that most of us kind of understand easier, the flow. So you're going to have 2 bottlenecks for these focused Datacrons, Mark III and currency. But let's talk about currency. So we're moving from about 7.5 million for a standard Datacron up to over 28 million, I think. I've taken these off the internet, so if they're not exactly right, I apologize, but we're looking at almost 4 times the currency. So let's break it down. So I have a choice. Do I want 1 focused Datacron, or do I want 4 of the standard Datacrons? We also have got the Datacrons, and we'll talk about that at the end, but we also got the Datacrons kind of laid out. So let me give you information on it. So the Afra Datacron, well, it kind of just makes her even better against Jabba. Now, at the moment, my Afra still beats Jabba, unless it has, I think, the Scoundrel Cron. It's very good. It will beat any of the Hutt Cartel Crons, but it will not maybe beat the Scoundrel ones. But she already has the BT1 Cron, and that's going to run for another season at least. So the a couple of months left of the BT1 Cron. And then Jabba the Hutt will lose his Cron as well. The Hutt Cartel will go away. So do you really need that Afra boost? I was expecting or hoping when I read this Afra kit that it wouldn't have throwouts to Jabba and thermal detonators. I was hoping it would have a throwouts to make it kill another GL. And then I would have been all in if Afra suddenly became a Ray counter, or if she became an SLKR counter, I would be more excited. But Afra already kind of counters Jabba pretty well. You're going to watch Datacrons obviously, but she's pretty much in that space. So I think the other thing with Afra is, yes, she's going to lose the BT1 Cron in like 2 months' time. So the first half of this new Datacron. But the fact is about the Afra team, she's a scoundrel, she's a mercenary, the team have a ton of droids, and you know what, you can even argue Sith if you start putting Vader on that team. I personally don't use Vader on that team as a 5th, but if you suddenly got an overpowered Sith Cron, you could start using Vader in that team as well. So I actually think there's a strong chance that Afra picks up a Cron from the next set, or the set, either the next set announced, which we will talk about, or the set after that they've not even mentioned that will come in 2 months' time. It's very likely that Afra gets one, and it makes it even better against Jabba. Okay, let's talk about the problems with the Dad Bod Boba one. this is still a good cron. I think of all of them, this is one that I actually think is probably still... We'll talk about whether it's worth it or not, but this is one where it's TW focused in my opinion, therefore you have to be in a TW guild. You're going to have a strong buy-in from the guild. You're going to look to have at least 35 people purchasing this exact Datacron and taking it up just to create that wall if you don't already have them. A lot of people do use that wall and it is a good wall. So having this is going to be good for TW. But TW is a fickle mistress. TW comes round rarely. Well, not rarely, but you're only getting X uses out of this, 8 uses. Is it really worth all of that for those 8 uses? Maybe. I still think the Dad Boba one for me is probably still on the... It's still one that probably is worth it. So maybe I'll put the Dad Boba one over there and say maybe. Okay, the Hera one, targeted at new players, but it really doesn't stop the Tuskens. Unfortunately for the Phoenix team, they have a couple of really hard counters. And the Hera one talks about you can't insta-kill Kanan. I don't need to insta-kill Kanan. Kanan will just die to dots. Everyone will die to dots. It's what Tuskens do. So I think the Hera one is probably not as good. I think the Hera one you're going to have to use on offense. But on offense, the Phoenix team already really kind of do well against people like Grand Inquisitor, Third Sister, CLS. They're already in high wins, especially in GAC, obviously with the Omis. But you're going to use them, and I don't think the value's there. I think they've overpriced it. Zalbar, really super disappointed that Zalbar didn't have any specific 3v3 callouts in that new Datacron. I thought they were adding in this meta-defining 3v3 Datacron. What did they add? Just a kind of mid one, you know? A kind of general Zalbar tanky one. So I think they would be much better if they'd done Zalbar as a 3v3 and really boosted that Omi team. I think that would have been even more fun. But again, I can't recommend the Zaldar one. And you know why? The biggest problem I have with this, and I'm talking to everyone on the island at the moment, you know, we're talking to our mid-rim masters, our inner rim initiates, and our outer rim legends. The biggest problem with this is they've announced the standard Datacrons. Now those are going on Sith. Now Sith is a massive faction. Sith can be split up in millions of different ways. Everyone has Sith. They've split up, they put ones on Separatists. So whether or not you have the Relic 3 characters or the Relic 5 characters use the actual level 8s, you're going to have a solid number of Sith and Separatists, regardless of where you are on the team. Kind of the same for Rebel Fighters. You might not have Luthen Rail yet, or a solid Mon Mothma team, but you're going to at least have, maybe have Cara Dune, I think even Biggs and Wedge in there. You're going to have Baze. You're going to have some of these Rebel Fighter teams that are going to benefit. And then obviously you've got the Bad Batch, which, let's face it, you're going to get the Bad Batch one, you're going to take it up to level 8 and stop. You're not going to bother going for their new kind of level 9 characters that we've kind of not unlocked yet. So here's where my head is, and this is why I was wrong. So, the first week of GAC, you know, Datacrons drop and I hard farm them, I do my conquest. I think when it locks for GAC, I have probably about 9 or 10 level 9s. That's kind of where I end up. In the end, I probably end up with about 18, 19. I start with about 10 on the first unlock, so we've been grinding for like a week. If I had a choice between 10 Datacrons that were Sith, Separatist, Rebel Fighter, and Bad Batch, or I need to swap 4 of those out for one of these new ones. So I would only have 6 at lock-in and 1 of these new ones. I'm losing 3 Datacrons. Now that actually makes a huge difference going into a new round of GAC. So I don't think in the first week it makes sense. Okay, so say I get those 10 and I'll lock in with 10 after the first week. Does it make sense in the second week? Well, maybe, but you got to remember that every single one of these things has a diminishing value. It has a value at start, and that value ends at 0 after 4 months' time. So if I end up missing a week, the automatic value of these things is dropped by a 16th, even more. So I'm going to say I was wrong. I think a good concept. I like the idea of these Datacrons, focused Datacrons, but to be honest, they've overpriced them, and I think they've also under-delivered. I think what we need to see for the next set is characters that are more on the edge of beating GLs. Like, even with these, Dad Balboa, Hera, Zalbar are not going to beat a GL team. Afra kind of already does. I know a lot of people, you do need special modding on her, you do need her at certain levels, but Afra does kind of hard counter Jabba. So I think the next set, I hope it's more interesting. I hope we see Darth Revan. I hope we see Gas. I hope we see the Third Sister. I hope we see teams that are just on the edge of beating GLs. I think that would give them an even more greater value. I think CG needs to go back and rethink this one, and they need to reduce the value, or just the currency and the mats. Anyway, everyone, have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your SWGOHs, and I'll catch you next week. And hopefully, I will not disagree with this video next week. Might will. Anyway, look after yourself. Enjoy your SWGOHs.